What I'm about to tell you has followed me like a shadow, loyal, unblinking, and impossible to shake. I've never spoken these details aloud, but I can't keep them buried anymore. Maybe it will help someone. Or maybe it will simply confirm what some of you have suspected all along. There are things living alongside us that we are not meant to understand. The encounter happened 3 years ago in a remote stretch of forest that sits between two small mountain towns. I went there often to hike, to think, to escape the noise of normal life. It was supposed to be a simple overnight camping trip, just me, my backpack, and the endless quiet of the trees. The first strange thing I noticed was the silence. Not the typical peaceful forest hush, but a heavy, oppressive stillness that made the air feel wrong. No birds, no insects, even the breeze seemed to have vanished. The deeper I walked, the more I felt watched, as though the woods themselves were holding their breath. About 5 hours in, I reached a clearing I'd never seen before. The ground was disturbed, as if something enormous had crashed through. Branches snapped clean in half. A strange smell, musky, earthy, and sour, hung in the air. I remember kneeling down to examine a footprint in the soil. It was nearly twice the length of my boot and deep enough to hold water. My first thought was bear, but the shape was all wrong. It looked almost human. I should have turned around. I should have run. But sometimes curiosity is just a slower form of suicide. I heard shouting. A man's voice. At first I thought it was distress, but then I realized it was pure, animal terror. It was close, maybe 100 yards ahead. Instinct took over and I sprinted toward the sound. The forest blurred around me until I burst through a wall of brush and froze. The scene is something I replay in my head nightly, like a film stuck on the same horrifying frame. A man, mid-40s, wearing a blue flannel shirt, was being dragged through the dirt by something huge. I couldn't see it clearly at first, only a towering silhouette. 7, maybe 8 feet tall. Covered in dark, matted hair. Something between an ape and a man, but wrong in ways I can't fully describe. Its limbs were too long. Its gait was too smooth. And its eyes, when they flicked toward me, glowed with an intelligence that didn't belong to any animal I've ever seen. The creature didn't run. It didn't seem startled. It simply turned its massive shoulders and locked eyes with me, as if sizing up a second catch. The man it held kicked weakly, his screams fading into gurgles. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Every instinct told me that one step closer meant death. Suddenly, the creature lifted the man like he weighed nothing and stepped backward into the trees. Within seconds, both of them vanished into the darkness of the woods as if swallowed whole. I don't know how long I stood there shaking. Eventually my survival instincts kicked back in and I ran. I don't remember the trail. I don't remember the trees or the ground or anything except the pounding of my heart. When I finally reached my car, I drove without stopping, without thinking, just trying to outrun whatever I had seen. But I couldn't outrun what came next. The next morning, the news reported that the entire forest area had been closed due to a wildlife incident. I knew immediately what that meant. Or rather, what it didn't mean. 2 hours after the closure, unmarked black SUVs swept into the nearby town. Men in tactical gear spread out through the forest entrance, and soon after, helicopters circled overhead. People gathered to watch, whispering theories. The atmosphere felt like the aftermath of a disaster, quiet, heavy, dread-soaked. I stayed back, pretending I knew nothing. But, that evening, while I sat in my truck debating whether to leave town entirely, someone knocked on my window. A man in a black windbreaker stood there, flashing an ID so quickly I couldn't read the name. He said he was with the FBI and needed to ask a few questions. How long were you in the forest yesterday? Did you see anything unusual? Were you alone? Did you encounter any animals? The questions felt less like inquiries and more like traps. I lied. I said I had only been there for a short walk. I said I didn't see anything strange. But he didn't look convinced. He stared at me with the kind of expression that told me he already knew more than he let on. Then he said something that still chills me. If you remember anything unusual, it would be best for everyone if you kept it to yourself. Everyone. Not just me. Not just the investigation. Everyone. After that, the FBI sealed off the forest completely. No hikers. No campers. Not even local police were allowed inside. For nearly 2 weeks, the area swarmed with federal vehicles, scientific equipment, and people who didn't look like law enforcement at all. Men in white suits carrying long metal cases, others setting up strange devices that hummed through the night. When the lockdown finally lifted, the forest reopened without explanation. No press release. No report. No acknowledgement that anything had happened at all. The official line was, routine wildlife management. But everyone in town whispered about the missing man. Apparently he had been reported missing by his wife that same evening. But his case was closed within days, marked as resolved, even though no body was found. It was as if he had never existed. I tried to go back to my normal life, but the memory of that creature followed me everywhere. I started researching. I dug through local legends, indigenous folklore, missing person reports, eyewitness accounts, anything I could find. And what I uncovered terrified me even more. There were other disappearances in that same forest. Strange noises people described as howls too deep for any known animal. Massive footprints appearing after rainstorms. Campers waking to the feeling of being watched. Whole groups who claimed to have seen a giant shadow moving between the trees. One retired ranger even told a story about finding a shredded deer carcass 20 feet up in a tree, as though something had hung it there like a trophy. But the most disturbing thing wasn't the creature itself. It was the pattern. Every time someone reported seeing something that resembled Bigfoot, or anything remotely close, official agencies arrived disturbingly fast. Reports vanished, areas were restricted, witnesses were warned, files were sealed, and in each case, the disappearances around those sightings were filed away without resolution. It was a cycle: sightings, secrecy, silence. Over time, I began to understand something I wish I didn't. The FBI didn't show up because a man went missing. They showed up because they already knew what had taken him. They had been tracking it, studying it, containing it, or trying to, for decades. And whatever they found in those woods that day, they couldn't afford to let the public know. I've often wondered what would have happened if I had been a few steps closer. If the creature had chosen me instead of the man in the flannel shirt. I still hear his screams sometimes, cut short, swallowed by the trees. I still see those glowing eyes, the intelligence behind them. That wasn't an animal, and it wasn't a myth. It was something older, something powerful, something that doesn't want to be discovered. Some nights, when the wind shifts just right, I swear I hear the same low, bone-deep growl I heard in that clearing. As if the creature is still out there, as if it remembers me. And sometimes, I think the government isn't trying to protect us from it. I think they're trying to protect it from us. Whatever dragged that man into the darkness is still out there, walking in the places where the trees grow thick and the light barely touches the ground. People still disappear, reports still vanish, and the forest still swallows its secrets whole. So when you hear stories about Bigfoot, when you laugh at blurry photos or strange footprints, remember this: legends don't survive for centuries without reason. Something created those stories. Something gave people a reason to fear the woods after sundown. I saw that reason with my own eyes. And I don't think it's finished. Not with us. Not with me. Not with anyone who dares step into the places the government quietly maps but never acknowledges. The forest remembers. The creature remembers. And sooner or later, we'll have to face the truth that's been hidden for far too long.